Hello and welcome back. So for some time now we've been working through our project. I've been developing it in this React UI folder. But what I'd like to do now is just take a brief interlude away from that and to work through a small TypeScript tutorial. And when we've assimilated some TypeScript skills, we'll come back and we'll convert this project from JavaScript to TypeScript. But for now, let's create a new folder. I'll call it TypeScript tutorial. And I'll open it in VS Code. Now VS Code has got TypeScript type checking built in, but I do need to give it some configuration information, which I do with a file called tsconfig.json. So I'll just copy in a couple of settings. I'm saying that I want it to be very strict with my type checking, and I've given it the name of an output folder, which we'll see shortly. But once I've set these settings up, I'm free to start writing some TypeScript. So I'll create index.ts, and because this is a TS extension, the TypeScript type checker will be sort of looking over my shoulder or running in the background, and anything that I type, it'll check for me and it'll highlight any errors I make. So let's start off with some primitive types. And I'm going to start by just writing some regular JavaScript. Let's say let first name. And that declares the first name variable. And then I'll say first name equals Fred. Obviously, I'm assigning a value to first name here. Now, the beauty of TypeScript is that all we need to do is add annotations to regular JavaScript. So I can type an annotation like this, :string, and immediately the type checker will notice this annotation and it'll understand what I mean, namely that I intend for first name to be of type string. And then for any subsequent assignments into first name, it'll check them for me. So Fred's fine, but if I try and assign 26 here, it's going to immediately report an error saying number's not assignable to a string. Now that's explicit typing, where I actually type in the type, but there is something called implicit typing as well. So let me show you that. If I say let is activated equals true, I'm both declaring it's activated and assigning a Boolean value to it. And because I'm assigning a Boolean value, I'm implying, as far as the type check is concerned, that is activated is a Boolean, and I intend for it to remain a Boolean. So now if I say is activated equals false, it'll be perfectly happy with that. But if I try and assign a value which is of a different type, such as a number, it'll immediately report an error similar to the one we saw before. So that's two sorts of type checking: explicit annotations and implicit type checking. For the remainder of this lesson, we're going to see how we actually run a JavaScript program. So the essence of it is that we convert it from TypeScript into JavaScript. Before I do that, I'm just going to add one more line so we can actually see it when it runs. I'm going to add a console.log and print these two values out. So to convert it from TypeScript to JavaScript, well, we could do it manually. We could walk through and remove all of these annotations, but there is a tool to do that for us, and that's known as the TypeScript compiler. And just like Vite and the Tailwind preprocessor, we can install it as a package and run it under npm. So let's just do that. I'll create a package.json. And I'll add in a dev dependencies section saying the tool I want. So the tool in question is called TypeScript. That's the name of the library. We'll install it, npm install. And then just like we saw with Vite, node modules is created and there's a bin directory and it contains the actual application, which in this case is called TSV for TypeScript compiler. So we could run that using npx, we could say tsc, but instead I'm going to run it from a script block. So again, I can copy and paste one in, And now I can run npm run build, and it'll run TSC for me. So let's do that. Npm run build. And it's compiled my program. You may remember earlier on in the ts config file, we told it that we wanted the output directory to be dist. So it's created that dist folder, and it's converted my index.ts, and it's generated an index.js. So let's just have a look at index.js. Now it has converted all the lets. So let is activated true. It's converted that to var is activated. But it's only done that for sort of browser compatibility reasons. Let and var essentially doing the same thing here. The important thing is that it's stripped out this colon string. So instead of let first name, we've now just got var first name. It's added this in, but all we really need to be concerned with is it's taken a TypeScript file, it's removed the annotation, and it's produced a pure JavaScript file, which we can now run in a JavaScript runtime. So there are two we regularly come across. One is the browser, and the other is Node. So I'll run it directly under Node. And to do that, I'll just use another npm script command. Let's open up our package again. Add that in. Let's put this over here. After all, that's what we're actually running. So we're going to execute this command, npm run start. It will run Node, and Node will run the file in the dist folder called index.js that we can see over here. So let's do that. Npm run start. And we can see it runs and does our console.log and prints these two values out. Now the TypeScript compiler, this TypeScript here, does more than just conversions. It will actually do full type checking as well. Now I know we saw type checking in the editor, so let's just bring back index.js over here. If you remember, we said that we're not allowed to assign a number to first name because it's a string. Now let's imagine that this code is sort of like this, where this is miles below, and we go and say this is a string up here, but we don't notice this error down here. So there's only so far you can go with editor error checking. What you really want is, when you do your build, is for everything to be checked. And the TypeScript compiler will do that for us. So let's just run this a second time. I'll run npm run build, and notice what happens when there's illegal TypeScript. It immediately reports an error, and it says the name of the file, where to find it. It says open file in editor, command click, so I can actually jump straight to this. I clicked on it and it's jumped straight up to this error here. So the TypeScript compiler is actually doing two things. It's error checking the TypeScript, and it's doing a conversion. So the other thing worth mentioning is that it will actually do the conversion even if the data isn't legal. So let's delete this index.js file, and I'll run it again. And look, it's created an index.js. It said first name is 26. And of course, this is perfectly valid JavaScript. So it will generate you a JavaScript file. And we could run that. I could say run start. And we'll see that it's now just printing out 26 and true, because first name is 26 and is activated is true. So it won't stand in the way of a conversion if it can do the conversion, but will still report the error all the same. So I hope you found that very informative. We'll carry on looking at TypeScript in the next lesson, so I will see you there.